nobody here understands, and there's all this money, and there's all this. And instead, I think something had changed in me as a human being, and instead I saw, God, these people probably have their kids at home nervous that they're going to, God, these people are so worried about how good they look tonight. God, these people, it became this, it became more, I just saw everybody as human and wished for them that they had the experience I had.
I've heard these stories, these people chasing you and stuff and taking photographs. Do you ever just want to yell at them, like, spend a little bit of money and go to the Congo?
Yeah.
Or,
Of course, yeah. We've talked about that, Brad. We've joked about that. Like, maybe we could just, go somewhere and they can follow us into the positive side of it. Yeah, force them to go to the Congo.
The UN, which has... It's sort of not a popular thing to support. There's a lot of people, the UN, their oil for food scandal, with the bureaucracy of it, the slow response to the genocide in Rwanda. Yet you are out there firmly behind it. Yeah, why? What is it?
Well, because I think we certainly hear a lot of the negative things about the UN. You hear about the negative things that have gone on. You don't hear on a daily basis the amount of people that are kept alive or protected by the UN. And if that list was plastered everywhere, I think people would be in shock and have a little more respect. I certainly think it needs reform. It's certainly not a perfect organization by any means. It's the closest thing we've got, to a real international institution that listens to all sides, represents all sides, and can make certain kinds of decisions. There's 19 million people under the care of UNHCR, and they're in 116 countries. Their budget is about $1.2 billion a year, which for that many people, and they're starting to also handle internally displaced, and they're also starting to handle, there's just a lot that people don't know about the UN and what it does in a positive way. And it does have its hands tied a lot. I've noticed that in countries. I've gone to countries where I've wanted to be angry about something, and you realize there's such a fine balance because you also have to be allowed to work in these countries.
Well, it's interesting, actually. You and Bono, I noticed, are activists, and yet in a very really sort of non-partisan way, and I've talked to him about that a little bit. There's some celebrities who throw stones or Molotov cocktails to try to get things done. You seem to be trying to work, both sides, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't seem to matter. You seem to be trying to affect change and do it in a smart way as opposed to just yelling.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I'm not yelling yet.
Well, give some time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's
if that bill doesn't get funded, maybe.
Then I'm going to yell at some people. But no, absolutely. I think it's the only way to win. And just because someone's Republican doesn't mean that they don't also, have the capacity to understand or care about children, for this bill or that bill. You have to speak to every person individually. You can't just have an assumption that, like, well, that person's an extreme.
It's got to be a hard thing, though, for someone who, I'm sure, you have your own opinions about things. It's got to be hard to sort of be like Switzerland and sort of try to be neutral,
To be diplomatic.
To be diplomatic.
I have a mouth on me sometimes, yeah. I know. It can be very, but again, it's one of those, you do find that honesty works, and you know that. You go to a place and you might say, look, I don't know what and you're, very strongly against this bill, and you've got your very strong reasons, and let me just say mine. And I've gotten in arguments with people that had scared me because they're just tough and smart, and but you do have that sense of.
I think you can hold your own.
You just believe in something is right, yeah. But
I have no doubt. I also read, and I don't know, I'm not being too forward, that the UN Declaration of Human Rights is very close to you. Like, literally, you have a tattoo that refers to it. Is that true?
Yeah, I do.
What does it say?
Know your rights.
Know your rights.
Yeah, it's on my back.
It's on your back? Wow. Why get that tattooed?
It's just something that I've always.
Because Bono uses it in concert.
Does he?
Taking it the next step, the actual tattoo.
I know, it's really funny because I've worn a low-cut shirt, or like just because it's kind of under one, and I've accidentally worn it. I wore it to a prison once when I was in. It's very popular.
Wow. Yeah. That must have given him something to talk about.
But it's just that. I think it's what comes down to everything for all these people, for refugees, for everybody. It's for them to know what their rights are, and then gives them the ability. For children who are trafficked, for women who are vulnerable, for everybody, if they can understand. When I started to look at these declarations, whether it be the Declaration for Children or just basic human rights, and you start to look at them and you start to see, well, it's right here. The Declaration of Human Rights says everybody has the right to an education, or everybody has the right to for freedom of movement. Everybody has the right, you know, that these things are in our law. There are, if you really look into it, they were all protected somehow.
The number of refugees has dropped 12% in the last year to something like 8.4 million. But the number of internally displaced people inside their own country who've had to move from their homes has actually jumped like 22%. And a lot of that is because of Iraq, the population in Iraq. I know you've been to Jordan, to the region. Do you, in your position, do you take a position on the war in Iraq?
It's really difficult when there's, I think most people feel this, when you have men and women that are over there and they're fighting, and we're at war. So, you know, it's done. We're there. You start to see, the more times I've been to Washington, the more times you talk to somebody about, we've got to get money for AIDS orphans, or we have to get money for, whether it be any kind of response to any tragedy. And often the answer is, well, we're at war right now. A lot of money is going to war right now. We don't have, so you start to look at it in a different way. And so whether you're for or against the war, you can certainly see that the amount of money being spent at war and the amount of money we are not spending in countries and dealing with situations that could end up in conflict if left unassisted, and then cause war. You know, so our priorities are quite strange. So we're missing a lot of opportunities to do a lot of the good that America is used to doing, is a history of doing, and we're not able to be as generous, we're not able to be on the forefront of all of these wonderful things as much. And so whether or not you're for or against the war, you have to start to notice that there's something wrong with that.
Well, coming up, Angelina Jolie's mission to help refugees and children in need has literally shaped her own family.